What's up, Taiwan? I'm Ethan Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan People's Party Chair Ko Wen-je says he's taking a 3-month leave of absence from his role as he and his party are engulfed by scandals.
因为这种种的错误，你知道，我几经思考，你知道，我还是要向党请假3个月，你知道哈，自动申请调查，你知道，我个人也要好好反省，你知道，我到底还能不能带领台湾民众党？到底还能不能给我们的支持者一个愿景，还有继续前进的力量？
Ko made the announcement at a press conference held by the TPP. The party also addressed the main scandal it faces involving unreported campaign finances. The TPP is Taiwan's 3rd largest party and was once seen as a major challenge to the country's 2 main political parties. But its approval rating has fallen to single digits in the past week as more scandals emerge. Taiwan's opposition-controlled legislature is due to meet again next week after the summer break. Controversial reforms saw the last session end in brawls and mass protests. Now activists say they're alarmed over yet more opposition proposals. Tiffany Wong reports.
拒绝民主倒退，
拒绝民主倒退，
公民持续守卫，
公民持续守卫，
中国国民党不要乱，
中国国民党不要乱。
Leaders of the Bluebird civil movement, which saw tens of thousands of protesters take to the streets earlier this year, are now sounding the alarm over 4 bills proposed by the opposition Kuomintang ahead of next week's new legislative session. They're concerned about a proposal to allow lawmakers to play a greater role in national security decision-making by getting an early preview of defense spending proposals. The KMT legislator who proposed the bill said it's meant to streamline national security coordination between branches of the government and is in keeping with how the U.S. handles its defense budget. Activists say they're also worried about a proposal to shorten the number of years it takes for Chinese spouses to receive identity cards from 6 to 4 years, citing what they say are conflicting loyalties. The KMT says the change is to provide Chinese spouses equal rights with other nationalities. The key concern among activists is that these new reforms could harm Taiwan's democratic processes and leave the country susceptible to Chinese influence.
这4个法案都是在威胁我国的民主的危机。那我们必须要有所行动。那如果说中国国民党在下一个会期之一要通过这些法案的话，我们相信台湾公民一定会有所行动。
The Bluebird movement started earlier this year as a protest movement against proposed reforms by the opposition-controlled legislature, which would have given lawmakers greater oversight of the executive branch and President Lai Ching-te. That bill passed in May, but is now suspended as it undergoes constitutional review. Although the movement has been less active in recent months, these civil society groups are here to show lawmakers that they will be paying close attention to the next legislative session and are ready to protest if needed. Howard Zhang and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has met with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing. Xi reportedly told Sullivan that his country was committed to maintaining good relations with the U.S. despite what he described as great changes. It comes at the end of Sullivan's 3-day visit to China, his first as National Security Advisor. During his trip, he also met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. The two discussed tensions in the Taiwan Strait and agreed to keep military-to-military communication channels open. For more on Sullivan's visit to China, our reporter Aldo Brower spoke to Drew Thompson from the National University of Singapore.
What's the significance of Jake Sullivan's visit to China?
What they call the strategic dialogue, or the strategic channel, is really the highest level working level dialogue between the U.S. and China. And these are 2 of the most important foreign policy interlocutors below the chairman of the party and president of the U.S. So it's very important as an opportunity for the 2 sides to exchange views, improve their mutual understanding, and reduce the risk of miscalculation.
How prominent has the issue of Taiwan been in Sullivan's meeting with Chinese officials?
Taiwan is the #1 issue for the Chinese side in almost every dialogue that they have, certainly at the political, military, diplomatic level. So Taiwan is always on the agenda because China insists that it's on the agenda. So it's important. It was certainly discussed. I think if you look at the two competing readouts, the one from the Chinese side and the one from the US side, it's quite clear what Wang Yi wanted to convey about how important Taiwan is to them and how concerned they are about trends, and how important it was for Jake Sullivan to give reassurances that U.S. policy is unchanged and that the U.S. commitment to maintaining peace and stability in this cross-strait relationship is still very, very strong and most importantly, unchanged.
One of the major aims of Sullivan's visit to China is to stabilize US-China relations. Given the many sore points between the two superpowers, how feasible would you say this is?
Both the US and China have fairly overlapping goals for the relationship and for this meeting in particular. And I think the US goal is definitely to maintain a floor under the relationship, prevent competition from veering into conflict. That's obviously a very real risk, and it's the biggest concern on the US side, but it's one that's shared by the Chinese side. I think Wang Yi conveyed to Mr. Sullivan that China would really like the US to change a lot of its policies that would accommodate China and end the containment strategy that they see occurring.
How might the upcoming US elections factor into this and other US-China diplomatic efforts?
I think the next administration, regardless of who that is, will want to maintain those channels of communication at the highest level where they can provide very authoritative perspectives, where they can provide reassurances, as well as seek areas of competition that can be managed and should be managed, as well as the areas of cooperation where both sides have very clear overlapping interests. So I think it seems logical that they'll continue, but there's possibilities that there'll be other channels. And I think certainly there'll be an interest in arranging meetings between Xi Jinping and the next US president. And the best way to organize and prepare for those bilateral talks between the president and the general secretary is through their national security advisors.
That was Drew Thompson of the National University of Singapore. There are now over 350,000 people living with dementia in Taiwan. And as the country moves towards becoming a super-aged society, the number is expected to increase. Wesley Lewis looks at how the government is getting creative in caring for these people.
As Taiwan moves towards becoming a super-aged society, its population of people with dementia is expected to increase. According to the country's health ministry, Taiwan is already home to around 350,000 people with dementia. They estimate that by 2031, that number will surpass 470,000 people. Then, by 2041, it will pass 680,000. That averages out to 2 new cases per hour every day between now and then. It's a problem that particularly affects women.
失智症的早期的症状包括他的情绪跟行为的障碍高达66%，他的忧郁、他的作息混乱、他的这个焦虑跟恐惧是他的前3位。
To tackle the issue, the health ministry has created thousands of care centers and trained over 500,000 volunteers to help look after the country's growing number of dementia patients. It also introduced community puppetry programs to help slow cognitive decline. 78-year-old Cho Xingrong joined one such troupe 6 months ago. He has mild dementia, and puppetry seems to help with his symptoms. It's become something he looks forward to every day.
时间上咯，好过日咯，
好过日哦，也可以动手，对不对？
While puppetry has helped Cho, he's just one success story in what is proving to be a growing challenge for Taiwan. As the country creeps towards becoming a super-aged society, one where over 20% of the population is aged 65 or older, they'll have to continue to get creative about tackling dementia, either by providing better care, better awareness, or better puppets. Patrick Chen and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
Sundance Film Festival Asia returned to Taiwan this year, and the industry looked to the spectacle as they announced the winner of the country's short film competition. But local professionals say there are deep-rooted issues in local filmmaking that can't just be swept under the red carpet. Yu Chenle has the story.
Winner is 说江林仙女。
恭喜领导演。 Taiwanese director Lin Qianyu wins Jury Prize for Best Short Film at this year's Sundance Film Festival Asia. Her work, called Suojiang, follows the story of a locksmith who's lost his way in life. It's the second film that Lin has ever made, and for many young Taiwanese creatives like her, an international award like this could make or break their career.
As an independent filmmaker, 就是要想办法让自己除了在台湾被认同以外，也要让自己的可能 skills 或者是创作的风格在国外被看见。
Taiwan's government says it's working to address the problems caused by the country's limited market size. The head of the Taiwan Creative Content Agency, an investment office set up by Taiwan's Ministry of Culture, says he's ready to provide more funding for the film industry. But for director Wen Qing, who competed against Lin at Sundance, these opportunities fall short when the market's criteria for good film appear more and more narrow.
纵使补助很多，然后影展好像也很多，但每一个影展跟每一个补助的多元性并不是这么的高。也许对于作者意识或者是不同的方向去怎么样呈现一部短片的那种包容性还没有到这么的多元。
Taiwan's film industry is also infamous for its long working hours and delayed payments, especially for fresh graduates just entering the scene. Even for nationally acclaimed veterans such as musician Lim Gyong, making a living can sometimes feel uncertain. Lim has been composing film scores for over 30 years and took home a soundtrack award at the Cannes Festival for the 2015 film The Assassin.
我也不能斩绝人的之情。
He was on stage at Sundance Asia, sharing his experiences with industry professionals from around the world.
因为我从来不晓得我做完了之后，大部分的导演会给我多少钱，我都没有跟他们谈，也没有跟他们签约。然后做完之后好像没有钱，他们觉得要给我多少钱，我就给我多少钱。
These are structural issues that no amount of award trophies can fix. But films are still being made. And Shu, who directed last year's short film winner at Sundance Asia, is now getting ready to make his first feature-length movie. His latest short film, The Stag, also won another award at the Sundance Festival's main event in Utah this year. Bolstered by their win in the States, he and his team has returned to Taipei, back to a familiar set of challenges.
我会觉得第一个场面我很想要让它尽量简单跟纯粹，但是很明确自己要讲跟探讨的是什么，所以我会想要用一个很简单的方式看可以执行这个东西，但应该还是会申请一些政府的补助。
Ann's personal savings are going to run out by the end of this year. He says he'd rather work part-time jobs in unrelated industries to support himself, rather than give in to commercial pressures. And his crew feels the same way. They're focused on their creative process.
得了大奖以后，当然压力会更大，就是你会有一种好像下一步不能拍差那种压力。但我觉得就且战且走，主要是自己跟自己下一部作品之间的，你觉得自己有没有更成长？
Taiwan's film industry may not be able to change overnight. Still, composer Lim Gyong says Taiwan's imperfect environment should not stop future generations from making movies.
在你缺乏有限制的时候，就去做，去突破那个限制，因为最终还是要表现你的作品嘛。
Whether or not Taiwanese film can break through to the international stage depends on the survival of its youngest filmmakers. And they're banking that as long as there is a desire to make films, audiences will keep wanting to enjoy them. Kamashi, Patrick Chen, Sandy Chi, and Yuchen Lai for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website and follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out these French jets flying over the opening ceremony of the Paris Paralympics. I'm Ethan Liu. Take care, and I'll see you next time.